In the lavish halls of medieval Europe, where banquets gleamed with silver goblets and golden platters, the most desired treasure wasn't a jewel or a fabric. It was a spice, tiny and black, known simply as pepper. A small pouch of peppercorns could be exchanged for silver, sometimes even weighed against gold itself. To sprinkle pepper across roasted meat was not just about enhancing taste, it was a declaration of wealth, refinement, and power. The burning question is, what made these little black beads so prized that they shaped the flow of trade, politics, and history for centuries? The story of pepper begins far from Europe's castles. Its birthplace lay in the lush, rain-soaked hills of India's Malabar coast. There, pepper grew as a climbing vine, winding itself around tall trees, nourished by fertile soil and heavy monsoon rains. Its cultivation demanded conditions so particular, warmth, humidity, and steady rainfall, that it couldn't simply be transplanted elsewhere. This exclusivity made pepper not just a spice, but an agricultural jewel tied to one land. Harvesting pepper required patience. Farmers plucked the berries while still green, drying them beneath the tropical sun until they darkened and shriveled into the familiar black husks. In these beads was an intensity unknown in Europe, sharp, biting, and fiery. But the distance between the pepper fields of India and the tables of Europe was immense, filled with deserts, mountains, seas, and thieves who waited to plunder. Every hand that touched pepper along this journey added cost, risk, and mystery. By the time a sack of peppercorns reached the markets of Venice, Genoa, or Marseille, it had already travelled thousands of miles, passing through dozens of hands. That alone transformed it from seasoning into a status symbol. To medieval Europeans, pepper was not just food, it was an exotic fragment of another world. No wonder people refer to it as black gold. The fame of pepper spread through trade. From India, it was shipped westward via the Arabian Sea, into the Persian Gulf or the Red Sea, carried by Arab merchants who mastered these routes. By the early Middle Ages, Arab traders had near total control of the spice passage. By the time pepper arrived in Middle Eastern markets, its price had already soared. From there, caravans hauled it across deserts into the Mediterranean, where Italian ports awaited. Venice, in particular, became Europe's glittering gateway. Merchants grew rich by monopolizing the spice, selling pepper at prices 50 to 100 times higher than its original cost. This monopoly was not just about scarcity, it was about control. Arab merchants and Italian city-states worked hand in hand, keeping northern Europeans dependent on their networks. Venice flourished, its harbours filled with ships, its palaces lined with gold, all thanks to pepper. For kings and lords elsewhere in Europe, this Venetian dominance was infuriating. They could taste power slipping away with each grain of spice. Inside the medieval kitchen, pepper caused nothing short of a revolution. Unlike salt, which was common, or local herbs, pepper offered an exotic fire that transformed bland meat, fish, and bread into meals of prestige. For the wealthy, seasoning food with pepper was not simply about taste, it was about sending a message. Guests at feasts judged the magnificence of their host not only by jewels or cutlery, but by how generously dishes were spiced. Practical needs also played a role. In a world without refrigeration, food spoiled quickly. Meat went stale, fish carried odours from long journeys inland, and bread could lose its freshness. A pinch of pepper disguised these flaws, offering an illusion of purity. Some historians debate whether this was its main role, but for medieval people, the belief was real. Pepper gave chefs freedom, allowing them to experiment, blending with honey, vinegar, sauces, or fatty meats. Cookbooks overflowed with pepper-heavy recipes. At banquets, bowls of pepper were treated like treasures poured straight from the East. Beyond taste, pepper entered the realm of money. So high was its value that it circulated as currency. Peppercorns could pay rent, settle debts, or even serve as dowries in marriages. To hand over pepper was to offer a treasure, small enough to carry in a pouch, but valuable enough to purchase land or goods. Some towns even locked pepper reserves in their treasuries, treating them no differently than silver bars. The English phrase peppercorn rent still echoes this tradition of symbolic payment. This dual identity, both food and money, set pepper apart. Unlike coins, which belonged mostly to the elite, pepper was divisible and practical across all classes. A single peppercorn could mean obligation, respect, or even survival. To hold a sack of it was to hold not only spice but also influence. The true political power of pepper revealed itself in Venice. The city grew untouchable by monopolizing spice flows, its fleets patrolling seas and its merchants brokering secret deals. Kings of Portugal, Spain, France and England grew restless, watching their treasuries drained by Venetian and Arab middlemen. Their frustration sparked ambition. Cut out the middlemen, reach India directly, and claim pepper for themselves. Thus began the Great Age of Exploration. Portuguese fleets sailed past Africa's Cape of Good Hope. Columbus, searching for India, stumbled upon the Americas. Later, the Dutch and English East India Companies forged empires entirely around spices. Pepper became a compass, pointing ships across oceans and drawing nations into global competition. Wars were waged, treaties signed, colonies established, all in pursuit of a fiery black bead. Pepper was not just reshaping food, it was redrawing the map of the world. The story of pepper does not end with banquets or ports. In medieval thought, it carried layers of symbolism far beyond the tongue. Guided by ancient theories of the four humours, physicians believed pepper's heat could balance the body. Prescribed for coughs, indigestion, or melancholy, it was as much medicine as it was food. Monks in monasteries recorded pepper in recipes that blended culinary and healing traditions. To taste pepper was to feel vitality, its fiery essence seen as life itself. Pepper even symbolized masculinity, energy, and divine favor. A host offering pepper dishes was not just nourishing guests, but granting vigor and health. In this way, pepper straddled medicine, culture, and faith, becoming more than a spice, becoming meaning itself. Its presence also revealed class divides. For nobles, pepper was an everyday indulgence, their kitchens stocked with sacks of it. Servants who measured out pepper were trusted as if they handled coins. For peasants, however, pepper was nearly mythical. They encountered it only at rare festivals or when wealthy patrons shared. To them, pepper was a distant luxury whispered about in markets. Thus, food became a stage of hierarchy. Heavily peppered dishes shouted privilege, while their absence spoke of poverty. Nobles flaunted jars of pepper like they flaunted jewels. The dinner table itself became a theatre of inequality. Pepper was not alone in Europe's spice craze. Cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg and cloves also travelled across oceans, commanding enormous prices. Each spice brought its own unique flavour: cinnamon's sweetness, ginger's warmth, nutmeg's perfume. Yet pepper held a unique strength: versatility. It paired with savoury, sweet and sour, unlike nutmeg or cloves, which had narrower uses. This universality ensured pepper reigned supreme. Other spices were jewels, dazzling but specific. Pepper was gold, universal, durable and essential. But nothing lasts forever. By the 16th century, exploration changed everything. Vasco da Gama's sea route to India unlocked direct access. No longer did pepper crawl along caravan trails and pay tolls at every checkpoint. Portuguese ships now carried tons of it straight into Europe. Supply exploded, and with it, prices dropped. What was once untouchable became increasingly available. Venice's golden grip loosened as Lisbon and later Amsterdam rose to dominance. By the 17th century, pepper had shifted from the tables of kings to the kitchens of prosperous merchants and farmers. It was still prized but no longer mythical. its aura of exclusivity faded, giving way to mass consumption. Pepper became democratic, available not just for nobles, but also for a growing middle class. Yet even as pepper lost its crown as black gold, it never lost its place in food. It endured as the most widely used spice, no longer a badge of aristocracy, but a staple of everyday cooking. Its story reflects the broader rise of global trade, colonial empires, and consumer markets. Pepper was the thread connecting India's forests, Venice's palaces, Portuguese fleets, and Dutch warehouses. The legacy of pepper is more than culinary. It teaches that history is shaped not only by kings and wars, but also by the smallest seeds of human desire. A peppercorn once bought land, paid debts, or launched fleets across oceans. It sat at the heart of banquets, treaties, and dreams of conquest. It was counted as money, prescribed as medicine, flaunted as status, and craved as taste. Today, pepper rests casually on our dining tables, ground over eggs or soup without thought. But behind each twist of the grinder lies a story of perilous voyages, monopolies, rivalries, and ambitions that redrew the map of the world. What we take for granted was once worth its weight in gold. Pepper's journey shows how value changes with time. What is ordinary now was once extraordinary. It whispers that civilization itself can be shaped not only by grand empires, but also by the humblest grain. In the echo of history, even the smallest seed can thunder,